Good evening, and welcome to the Canopie Coaster almost 47,000 subscriber live stream. Live stream, not live stream. Um, yeah, per usual, just let me know if you can hear me down in the chat, and if not, just start firing questions away. I'll hopefully get to as many as I can. Like I said, I've streamed for about an hour, and I have to run off to a soccer game, which happened a few weeks ago as well. Perfect. So if people can hear me, I see Misery, Dicronius, Cat Ashworth, 61 Coasters, Jaden Herbert. The Kinect's expert. How is Helios? Really good. That's a nice coaster. Does a little bit of everything. It's nicely themed up too. Siger, have you been to Epic Universe yet? Stardust thoughts. I have not been yet. I don't really like going to Florida in the summer because of how hot and humid it is and the daily thunderstorms. I plan to go in the fall or winter when it's much cooler temperatures. But definitely looking forward to going to that park, and it will happen before the end of the year. Um, P shoot our gaming. What do you think are the problems with the straddle coasters? So I think the big hint is that the LSM ones are still open, whereas the tire propelled ones in the US are closed. Now the curious thing is why the tire propelled ones in Europe reopened so quickly. I think Juvalin was closed for a few days, but it's been open since. So it must be something that's affecting the newer ones that are built in the US. But the thing in Namazu is a newer one as well, and that one's open as far as I can tell. So um, everything I believe it's something to do with the tire launch, how it interacts with the trains. But yeah, it's unfortunate that it's impacting the SeaWorld coasters and possibly delaying Quantum Accelerator. Trap Ostrich, do you think Dollywood would benefit from single rider launch for the coasters or make the lines longer? So they used to have one for Lightning Rod that was really helpful, and you get on that ride quickly. It just made it a little more stressful for the merge because they had to deal with because of where they do the merge there. They had to deal with time savers, standby, and single rider one spot. It can be done. I'd like to see single rider lines come back, but I'm not sure if it will. Dicronius, what parks did you visit in Europe this time? I went to some in the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and Austria. JM mode. You're going to Worlds of Fun for the first time next week. Any advice? So I assume you're going to hit all the coasters. Big tips: do not miss Detonator and Cyclone Sam's. Those are two really good flat rides. The Sorry, it's the Kinexpert, not the Kinect's expert. Okay, thank you. Ten Shoe. What coaster do you think is top tier but enthusiasts rarely talk about? Um, hmm. Trying to think which ones would be in that class. Trying to think of one that I have high. Like I love Surf Coaster Leviathan. I have that way higher than anyone else, but I wouldn't quite call it like top tier. Um, One that comes to mind, Steel Dragon 2000. I know it is seat dependent. You can't pick your seat, but that's a really, really good ride. Front row is almost as good as Fury, in my opinion. 61 coasters. Do you think Timberwolf will get the RMC treatment due to the 2026 FIFA World Cup? I suspect it'll get something. It's just a question of will it be pre-cut track, Titan track, or 9-horse conversion? Because Cedar Fair has worked with all of those in the past. Jimmy Landry, any IPs you'd like to see incorporated into a future or current theme park? I've said it before, but Back to the Future, and it fortunately looks like that might happen at Universal Great Britain. Uh, Shem the Gracehopper, currently at the Big Blue Hotel with the Great View of Big One Icon, Big Dipper from my window. Yeah, it's a great hotel, and I love that park. Honestly, that might be my favorite park in England, even more so than Alton Towers. So enjoy the park. Uh, okay, hi Mike, it's Daniel. Don't worry about the name. Thought I might ride Wiener Looping before you, but no chance. Happy 47K. Keep up the great work. Yeah, Wiener Looping did that one on the trip. That was another fun coaster. It's nice that Wiener Prater, well, actually, they already had one, has another permanent coaster. I'd say it's their best coaster. Yeah, it's just funny how two Big Dippers are added in that country, in the same year. 61 coasters. What do you think Six Flags Over Texas's next coaster will be? I'm almost certain this can be a Giga Dive coaster based off of what they said in the press release back when they announced the 2026 editions. Dicronius, do you prefer theming or thrills? Hard to say. I like both. It depends how far they go on each end. Like there are some Disney rides better than big thrill coasters, but then there are some big thrill coasters better than highly themed dark rides. Just depends. The Connexpert, your favorite Zamperla other than Top Thrill 2? Mine's Dinosaur Mountain because it's so bizarre. I'd have to go with Thunderbolt at Luna Park. I don't hate find the Thunderbolt coaster uncomfortable, and that rides some really good forces. Landon Young, what were the names of the roller coasters you recently filmed on off ride, like Cliff Park in New Mexico? I've filmed at quite a few places recently. Like I did at Glenwood Caverns, did a few places in Europe. I'll have plenty of videos trickling out in the next few months, and you'll get to see what I got to film on. P Shooter Gaming, how do you think Invertigo at Kings Island has left? How long do you think Invertigo has left? I suspect that'll be the next coaster to be removed from that park. I'd say maybe 5 years max. Thank you for the super chat. That is, sorry, the name got cut off, which is weird. Boston, the prison. I can't see the rest of it. Sorry. Sup, bro. Big fan from Sydney, Australia. Legend. Yeah, thanks for the support. And I loved it when I went to Sydney 2 years ago. Very nice city. Loved going to Australia. And I know Luna Park is not the biggest park, but I love how you get to Gold Coast while down there. Sorry, where was I? Jaden Herbert, have you ridden Lightning Rod with a chain lift? It is amazing. I have not. I'd like to get to Dollywood next year when they have that big new edition open. 90-day seance. Will any parks get an RMC Wild Moose? I sure hope so, because that looks like a pretty cool alternative to a Wild Mouse. Dicronius, which is better, Helios or Wiener looping? I prefer Helios. I think it has a better range of forces, and it's a much better themed ride. P Shooter Gaming, how long do you think Elitch Gardens has left? Hard to say because they just transferred ownership right after my visit. I hope that park sticks around. I'm just not sure if it'll be in that spot. I just want them to have certainty so they can invest however they have to. Uh, for once, I'm actually excited for planning announcement. We should have the planning application for Universal Great Britain released today. Yeah, I hope so. I'm really intrigued to see how many details they give out for that. Do you prefer somebody you used to know or anxiety? I'm assuming I think that's a song, the first one. I don't know anxiety, so I can't really answer that one. Sorry. 61 coasters. Do you think the family boomerang coaster will be the next clone in the new chain? It very well could because those are nice family coasters and you get a lot of bang for your buck because you go both forwards and backwards. The Connexpert. Where are the cats? They're in the sunroom sunbathing. They absolutely love it in there. Tommy, do you still visit Canobie, and what do you think the next ride will be besides the water park and SPF spinner? So I used to go to Canobie more because I used to work 10 minutes from there. And it was my closest park because when I lived in the North Shore. I live closer to Providence now, so Canobie is a lot more annoying to get to because I have to go through Boston. So I don't go nearly as often as I used to. Still love the park. As for what their next ride would be, I would love to see them get some type of inverting flat because they haven't had one since they removed Equinox. Jaden Herbert, do you think Hershey Park will replace their wild mouse with an RMC wild moose since they're getting into the family coast game? That'd be nice if they did. I'd love to see one. Boston the Prisoner of Oh, sorry, there's your full name. Boston the Prisoner of War, you appreciate your content and you love the wild mouse kind of coasters. So I assume you'd be on the new one at Luna Park. I've heard that's wild even though they rebuilt it. 61 coasters. I heard Great Escape's getting a B&M coaster. Do you think it's Firebird or an entirely new coaster? I'm really intrigued what that could be because I'd be surprised if they got another coaster so quickly after Bobcat. Um, but if they end up getting another B&M coaster, that'd be great. I feel like it'd be probably something more on the family scale based off of what they have. But um, Yeah, we'll have to see what they do. I'd all maybe a mini scale dive would be cool, but I just don't know if they have the attendance to justify a coaster that expensive. Bone sauce. If you have a giant backyard, what coaster would you put in there? So I do have a big backyard, but I would not put a coaster there. Just I don't want to deal with the whole logistics of going through the town and all that. Um, if I were hypothetically to build a coaster, something like an RMC Raptor would be cool, but I don't see that ever happening. Pea shooter gaming. What other parks do you think will get sold or closed in the Six Flags chain? I feel like Frontier City is the obvious choice, in my opinion, given how limited their hours are this year. But we'll have to see if that comes to fruition. Jimmy Landy, what upcoming or rumored park are you most looking forward to? I probably have to go to Universal Great Britain. If you're talking about like parks that aren't fully constructed yet. Jaden Herbert, how are your cats? Great. They're playful, cuddly. They act like dogs. Like an expert. Have you ever considered changing your username now that you have a new home park? No, because I went to Canobie so much growing up, and that was, the park I'd go to every summer, and that's how one of the big reasons I love amusement parks. So I don't see my need to change the name. Dicronius, do you believe Energylandia might still get a Vekoma tilt coaster in the future, or do you believe they had given up? So I suspect they still want to build coasters. They clearly have a good relationship with Vekoma. I believe it was something where they just stopped getting funds from the government, which slowed down their expansion. But I think they could very well go with that model in the future. Tommy, do you think the SeaWorld straddle coasters will reopen before Quantum opens? Absolutely, because if they not if because they postponed Quantum Accelerator to next year, that basically just means do we think that the SeaWorld straddles will open by like April of next year, and I think that's highly likely. What I think happened is if the issue that's plaguing the SeaWorld ones is also impacting Quantum Accelerator, however long it would take to fix would be so far into the summer that they just don't think it's worthwhile opening Quantum Accelerator for the year. Because you have to remember, like college kids go back to school and honestly, probably 6 to 7 weeks at this point. And up in New England, the main season is up till Labor Day, and then you get a lot of people for Fight Fest, but you're missing. It's already going to miss a meat of the season, so I think that's why they're going to push it to next year for business reasons. Boston, the prisoner of war. I hope you reach your 47K sub goal. I imagine I will probably in the next day or so, based off of the rates growing. The Kinexpert, a family dive coaster looks so cute. That'd be interesting. I just don't think that would work well for how much it would cost, and like I feel like the dive coaster lends itself to a thrill coaster. Jaden Herbert, did you pet your cats? Oh yeah, they love being pet and scratched and you know everything. They act like dogs. Trap ostrich. Do you think Hershen would be able to do something like Six Flags of a mega pass that gets you in all the Hershen parks? I think they definitely will. Especially up in the Northeast, so many of them are close by, such as like Water Country and Storyland and Lake Compounds. That at least they'll have to do a regional pass of some kind. I'm surprised I never have had one for Kentucky Kingdom and Dollywood, considering how close they are. But we'll have to see because there's a lot of these parks up here that are used to having combined season passes. That if that goes away, I can see people being a lot pretty disappointed. Shem the Grace Hopper, best train coaster you've been on. Lightning Rod. It's my favorite coaster, and it's a terrain coaster. 61 coasters. You're going to Fiesta, Texas in 2026. What ride should you hit up first? My recommendation with that park is to always go to Wonder Woman first because it has really low capacity, and because it's in the back corner, if you go there first, you can start lapping it before people get there. Rapids. Are you going to Canada's Wonderland this year for Alpine Fury? I would like to. I'll probably do like a long weekend trip eventually for it. Extreme Thrills, number one coaster. Currently Lightning Rod, but again, I have not ridden it since they removed the launch. The Kinexpert. Did you win your soccer match from the last live? No, we won our first two games of the season, then lost the rest of them. Hello, Coaster Joe. Dicronius, do you believe the Looping Group and Aspro Parks might go under in the next couple of years? I don't think Looping Group will go under. Aspro is an interesting case considering they just closed Oakwood, and I have not heard the best things about Wallgate or Grand Est. Um, I don't know how they're doing financially. I don't know what type of crowds those parks get, but I'd say just if someone knows better, I'd love to hear more. Jaden Herbert, have you ridden Twizzler's Twisted Gravity yet? Not yet, but I'll get to Hershey Park at some point this year. Pea Shooter Gaming, do you think Ninja at Six Flags Magic Mountain is in any danger of closing? I think it's definitely in danger of closing, especially after that new the rumored new Vekoma Thrill Glider opens. If that's going to have some type of like suspended coaster elements, because those Arrow suspended coasters seem like they're on a ticking clock. 61 coasters. Favorite thing outside of amusement parks? I love sports. Barcelona. Excited to ride Siren's Curse and Top Thrill 2? Yeah, absolutely. I just hope Top Thrill 2 is open when I choose to go. Jaden Herbert. I saw the Edge water coaster in person at Wilderness of the Smokies. Yeah, that ride is a really cool placement at the edge of the hill, so you can see it from down below in the road. Coaster Joe, I think Cedar Point and Hershey Park probably have one of the best coaster lineups. Do you agree? Yeah, those two are up there, right, with like Six Flags and Magic Mountain, just extreme quantity and quality, top to bottom. Tommy, do you think the Great Adventure 2026 coaster is delayed or canceled? I imagine it might be delayed at this point, considering, as far as I know, we haven't seen construction. Um, if that ride was being made by a manufacturer who makes track overseas, which if it is the rumored mock tower coaster, it would. It could be impacted by tariffs because I've heard similar things might be impacting the one going to Six Flags Magic Mountain, whereas the one going over Texas is manufactured domestically by B&M at Claremont. So that's why that one hasn't had the same problems because the cost hasn't gone up. Pea Shooter Gaming, what coaster would you get on first at Cedar Point if you're trying to get all the credits? If you have early entry, I would say go to the best ride open at early entry. I believe they just add Top Thrill 2, so if that's the case, go there, especially if that ride's reliability issues. I really like going to Millennium Force first, so that way you can get a front row ride with a shorter wait, and when you get off, the Magic Gate might be open. Muko 2, favorite on property hotel at a park. I love the Walt Disney World resorts just because you're basically isolated to their property. Some other good ones: Fantasyland has amazing hotels. Europa has amazing hotels. Um, so yeah, those are the ones that come to mind. 61 coasters. Do you think the straddle coasters will get an LSM launch just to have a tire launch? I do not. I think they'll work through whatever the issue is. Shem the Grace Hopper. What would be a better start for a multi-launch and plant coaster? A junior implement or a zero G winder? I love zero G winders because of the hang time, so I'd go with that. Pea Shooter Gaming. Do you think the Gravity Group will ever make a big coaster again? I'd say yes because it seems like China's buying their big coasters in bulk. So I can see another Oriental Heritage making a big jungle trailblazer again. Jaden Herbert, you're going to Cedar Point to ride Siren's Curse. It'll be awesome. Yeah, I'm really intrigued to try one of those dive coaster, and not dive, those tilt coasters because that gimmick looks really neat. Dicronius, best coaster at a park that only has one coaster besides Surf Coaster Leviathan. Um, let's see. Trying to think of. Run through my list real quick to see if I spot one off the top of my head that satisfies that. Um, I mean, one cheat is would you say a mountain coaster because there's some crazy ones over in Germany that are the one coaster in those parks. Might be Switchback as ZDTs unless I'm because you said I can't count Surf Coaster Leviathan, so that one might come to mind. Switchback will be up there. Um, yeah, I might be missing an obvious one. Oh, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I'd go with that one unless I'm forgetting something. Vincent, what are your favorite amusement theme parks that are not renowned for their coasters? So this is probably cheating, but Disney. Love the Disney parks, and typically people go there for the theming, and they have some coasters that are good, but it's the theming and overall atmosphere that makes those parks. Uh, s- Gem the Grace Hopper. Which coaster is the most extreme difference in the back row versus the rest of the train? Think of some that come to mind for that. Raging Bull at Six Flags Great America is one that I far, far prefer in the back row. Um, or some other ones that are significantly better in the back. Um, I much prefer Sky Rush in the back because you get the drop. Iron Rattler, similar reasons. Um, those are some of the big ones that come to mind for that. 61 coasters. What's a park you regretted going to? The second time I went to La Feria de Chapultepec, because the previous year when I went, I only got to go on Montaña Rusa and Chimera once each. And so I was in Mexico on a layover, Mexico City on a layover. And I started at Six Flags Mexico, and which is a good park. And I called La Feria to double check their coasters were open, and they said yes on the phone. I showed up, every single coaster was closed except the Spinning Wild Mouse. And because of how traffic works over in Mexico, it would have taken so long to go from La Feria back to Six Flags Mexico that I would have had barely any time at the park. So basically, I gambled that La Feria was telling the truth, that all their coasters were open. They were not. Extreme Thrills. Which do you prefer, Iron Gwazi or Steel Vengeance? Steel Vengeance because it's a much longer ride. Uh, Red Wing's good. Just went to Canada's Wonderland. My back is not recovered from Wild Beast. Yeah, that one can be a little bumpy if you sit in a wheel seat. I do like that ride. I should avoid the wheel seats. Spell. What do you do in long plane fights or however else you get to the other countries? If it's an evening flight, I sleep for part of it. Otherwise, I'll go on my computer for a bit, play some games on my phone, watch some movies. Basically, I just keep myself occupied. Pea shooter gaming. If Hershey were to get a new coaster, what do you think it'll be? I've just envisioned some type of family coaster that like winds itself underneath Candymonium in the front of the park, like something like a Vekoma launch coaster would be cool. Jaden Herbert going to Cedar Point. Any tips for a first visit? Um, if you're not using Fastlane, have at least 2 days so you can do as much as you can. If you only have 1 day, I'd consider Fastlane just so you can get on things quickly. Um, Ride Top Thrill 2 when you see it open, if it's as unreliable as I've heard. And then if wind is in the forecast, plan accordingly because I know Raptor and Gatekeeper are particularly prone to shutting down wind. I don't know if Top Thrill 2 is prone to closing in wind. Someone else might know better than me. I wouldn't be surprised if it has wind issues as well. 61 coasters. Favorite team out of the five major sports leagues? I'd probably go with the Patriots just because I love football. Scott's Moto Adventures. Where does Cedar Point put the next coaster? Do they take out Corkscrew and replace it in that area? The one I've always wondered if they'd remove, honestly, would be Cedar Creek Vine Ride because that takes up a deceptive amount of space, and with its 48-inch height requirement, I don't really think it's a great family coaster, to be honest. Jaden Herbert, favorite arcade game. I love pinball. Uh, Pea Shooter Gaming. What do you think will replace Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland? Unless I'm forgetting it, they don't have a true spinning coaster, so I would love to see them add an extreme spinner over there. But if they want something at the family level, like a mock family spinner would be great too. Uh, a Fury Guy 325. What rides do you think will be relocated from Six Flags America? So I think the Spinning Wild Mouse Raging Cajun's an obvious one because that ride's pretty easy to pretty easy to relocate. Um, Yeah, I see some of the flats getting relocated. I'm a bit worried about some of the major coasters because that's a lot harder to move, especially the Woodies. Maverick's Heartline Roll, least favorite airline to fly. I would say Spirit and Frontier because you're basically gambling if you can even get on the plane. If you do, it's probably going to be delayed. Uh, the Connexpert, will you always do a live stream every 1,000 subs, even if you get to 1 million subs? I like to try to do them. I know I skipped some just when I was busy last year, but I'll try to do them as much as I can. Loop de Loop Adventures, great adventure local here. Just left over Texas and rode my first RMC Hybrid New Texas Giant. Blew me away with how good it is. Yeah, I feel like anytime you ride your first RMC, it always blows you away with the quantity of ejector airtime. Because when I first rode Wicked Cyclone, it was my first RMC, and it was my favorite coaster afterwards. Now that I've ridden some more RMCs, Wicked Cyclone has fallen down a bit just because I've ridden better RMCs. But Wicked Cyclone's still a great ride. Vincent, most underrated amusement park you have visited? Um, let's see. What would it be? I'm gonna run through my list real quick to see which ones are particularly underrated. That I think. Um, I think Kennywood's underrated with enthusiasts at this point because I know people, you know, blame Palace for their operations and such, but I've always had a pleasant visit at that park. So I'd say that's one that's up there. Parque Warner Madrid's another one that I think is one of the better parks in Europe. Um, Helps that they just put in Batman to complete the park, but I'd say that's another one. Um, Dicronius, if you were someone visiting the USA for the first time, would you prioritize the Florida parks or go to Cedar Point and Kings Island? So I'd say it depends what your priorities are. If you love theming, Florida is obviously a strong contender. If you want the best coasters, Cedar Point Kings Island's an option. Or another one I'll throw in the ring would be California because you get the best of both worlds. You have Six Flags Magic Mountain and you have Disneyland right there. Plus, if you want to make a longer trip, you have Knott's and Universal and all that as well. Pea Shooter Gaming, Thunderbolt killed my back and it still hurts. Yeah, I know a lot of people find that ride uncomfortable. Fortunately, I don't, and that's why I enjoy it. Dicronius, any country you visited while on a layover that you would not have visited otherwise? Um, Iceland, because I've flown Iceland Air. I definitely want to go there at some point to explore Iceland, but I've only been at that airport when I've been in that country. 61 coasters. Sorry, bro, I'm a Ravens fan. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Ravens, but you guys have had the better teams lately with Lamar Jackson and everything. Vincent, favorite family coaster? It depends where you draw the line. Family coaster. I love Rorosaurus. Guardians of the Galaxy is another good one, but it just depends what you count as a family coaster. Pea Shooter Gaming favorite coaster model, not including RMC. I love the Intamin hyper coasters and their multi-launch coasters. Cat Ashworth, your cats may be sunning themselves, but you have an extra viewer in my cat Ozzy. Oh, that's great. I have an extra viewer. I hope they're just relaxing and enjoying life. Jaden Herbert, do you take your cats on road trips? I do not. They do not like the car, and they also are indoor cats. They don't really, go out on leashes and such. The theme park dude. Love the shirt today. It really brings out the color of your eyes. Thank you. I'm wearing this because we're the blue team in soccer, so you need a blue shirt. Barcelona, will you ride Big Bad Wolf this year? I definitely want to get down there for that in Rapterra. Loop De Loop Adventures. I've only ridden New Texas Giant for hybrids. How's Wildcats Revenge compared to it? As I'll ride it soon. Wildcat's an even more aggressive ride. Obviously, it throws in inversions, but it has better laterals than New Texas Giant. And I think New Texas Giant has a larger quantity of airtime, but the airtime on average is stronger in Wildcat when it occurs. Um, Mavericks Heartline rule, least favorite airline. I answered that. Frontier and Spirit, just because they're so unreliable and you're likely not getting on the plane most times. The theme park dude. Will you ever visit a theme park in North Korea on a tour? I do not see that happening. South Korea, I want to get to though. Pea Shooter Gaming. What do you think will be the next Arrow Looper to get removed? That's a good question. I would think Sidewinder and Diamondback are the two most dangerous ones, considering how much downtime those two have had, and they're also, a more unique version of an Arrow Looper. Jaden Herbert, do your cats sleep with you sometimes? So they like the heat. So they like to cuddle with us when it's particularly cold out. Vincent, best country in Europe for coasters outside of Germany, in your opinion? Let's see. Sweden doesn't have a large quantity, but I love the parks there, and they have some big coasters. Um, let's see. England has to be up there because of the quantity. Spain has some really good ones. Belgium's stacked now that you have both Conda and Ride to Happiness, so quite a few good options there. Pea Shooter Gaming, what do you think will the Vortex replacement will be? So I think in their surveys they mentioned some big family coaster, and that's what I think might be the next ride at that park. I personally want a mock extreme spinner, but I think that big family coaster might be the thing. Jaden Herbert, have you ridden Barnstormer or Dollywood? I have. It's one of the weaker screaming swings because the cycle's not as good as others, but I do like how it interacts with the barn. Loop De Loop Adventures, you rode Mr. Freeze forwards and it was a really good time, but I prefer Flash, a great adventure. That's another coaster I still need to get on. I have not ridden Flash yet. 61 coasters. You rode Judge Roy's Scream a couple days ago. One of the worst coasters, in my opinion. It was so rough. So I don't hate Judge Roy's Scream, but I know it's not the smoothest ride out there. I just avoid a wheel seat and I have a good time. Uh, H Perm, you're going to New Hampshire this August and can only go to one park. Where should you go? If you're in New Hampshire, I'd say Canobie Lake Park. Very charming park, and it's the largest of the parks in New Hampshire. Pea Shooter Gaming, favorite RMCI box, Steel Vengeance, insane quantity and insane length and awesome airtime. Maverick's Hardline Roll. Do you think Six Flags Over Texas is a Giga Dive will be shaky like sorry, not Maracas? Um, I hope it's not. I imagine it'll have some type of shake to it based off of the latest B&M coasters, but we'll have to see what happens. Vincent, you really enjoy how well informed your videos are. How do you usually research for your videos? Um, Basically, I'll just go all about and look in Google and look at different sources and see what information I can find. Wikipedia is a good jumping point a lot of times, but sometimes you need to verify the information there. The theme park dude, have you ever undone your seatbelt on a ride to get more airtime? I know I want to obey park rules for not only safety purposes, but I don't want to get kicked out of the park. Cat Ashworth, Ozzy's being an attention-seeking little bugger, so I post nonsense. He's on my keyboard. Oh yeah, it's always fun when the cats touch your keyboard. Mine particularly likes that when I'm working. Loop De Loop Adventures. Would you say Candymonium or Nitro is better? I prefer Candymonium. I think the airtime's better, and the airtime and pacing are better. Barcelona, Sidewinder at Elitch Gardens reopened, by the way. I heard that just reopened. When I was there, I was told it was that and Twister 3 were supposed to open by the 4th of July. I haven't heard Twister 3's open yet, but if not, I assume it has to be close. Jaden Herbert got front seat ride in Thunderhead. It was amazing. A little bit rough, but it was amazing. The one thing I'll say at Thunderhead is there have been certain rides over the years on it that have been bouncier than others. I think it doesn't help that ride, is basically running almost year round at this point. But the pacing on that and the airtime's always been good. Maverick's Hardline Roll. Wait, why is there a rank by my name? Ain't no way I'm first, lol. I don't really know how the rankings are coming about. I I'm not sure how that is, sorry. Jaden Herbert, what was a coaster that was a little bit rough that you enjoyed? I guess it depends what you call as rough because, like, I know some people call Lightning Rod rough, some people call Outlaw Run rough, a lot of people call Boulder Dash rough. I like all those rides, so I guess I'll say that. Um, Dicronius, a park you went in very excited for but ended up being disappointed. I'd say La Ferida, Chapultepec, just because their lineup looked really cool. They had some great rides, but their operations were atrocious. Many closed rides, staggered openings. Um, yeah, they kind of shot themselves in the foot when I was there. Um, 61 coasters. How do you get your name Canopy Coaster? Is it named after the park or something else? It's named after the park because that was my closest park growing up. Each perm. Are there any parks outside Canopy I've been to? I know Six Flags New England's about 2 hours, but anything else around you think is worth my while? Lake Compounce is worth visiting because of Boulder Dash. That's arguably the best coaster in New England. Um, then there's a lot of smaller parks in New England that have nice little rides. Like you have Funtown that it's a cute little park, and Excalibur's a good wood coaster. Storyland has some really nice theming, and they have Rorosaurus, which is an amazing coaster. Quite a few parks worth seeing in New England. Dicronius, how many credits do you currently have? I think it's like 14, 20, something in the ballpark of that. Loop De Loop Adventures, Shockwave it over Texas pulls crazy G's. Yeah, I think it's reported that it posts, I think it's 5.8, 5.9 G's. I don't think it's quite that high, but it is definitely high, especially having those two loops back to back. Maverick's Heartline roll. Imagine we get Grand Theft Auto 6 before Great Adventures car replacement. I would not be surprised if that happens, unfortunately. I hope both happen as soon as possible. The theme park dude, would you ever consider getting married on a coaster? No, because I was married in a church and I don't plan to get remarried. Kings Island historian, have you been to Stricker's Grove before? I have. I went once. I think it was for the Labor Day weekend opening. That was a nice little park. Tornado had one really good airtime moment from I remember in the back, and there were some fun flat rides, but um, not a park I necessarily would seek out again. But if I'm in the area in that time of year, I definitely go back though. What is your favorite park in the Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg region? Efteling. I love theme parks, especially ones that have some thrill rides to it, and Efteling checks all those boxes. Uh, Diddle Lipper. Do you like icebreakers restraints? Airtime is great, but paired with a gut punch. So with those premier, like newer trains, the only thing I don't like is row 3 on any car because you have it's the shin guards I don't like in them because they're not contoured around your shins. They're like that wedge. And if you're in the back of a car in that, you can't tuck your legs underneath the seat to kind of relieve yourself from the shin guards. In rows 1 and 2, you can tuck your legs under the seat. Maverick's Heartline roll. You're almost caught up to the start of the chats. I don't think there's that many people in the live stream compared to usual. It says there's only 11. Not sure why it's not as high as usual, but if I can answer the questions, stay up to date, great. Um, H perm, is YouTube your full time job or do you do something else? I'm an engineer. I just do YouTube for fun on the side. Dicronius, have you been following the FIFA Club World Cup? I watched like the main World Cup when those games happen, but I typically don't watch much soccer and follow up to that. Mavericks Heartline roll. El Toro Ryan said that tariffs are are affecting the car replacement. Do you foresee them affecting the industry even more than that? I definitely think it could. I mean, that's rumored what could be happening with Six Flags Magic Mountain's new coaster as well. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate if that's the case. Vincent, what is your favorite Vekoma Madhouse? I really like Hexadalton Towers just because of the whole story based off the local legend, and yeah, I'll go with that one. 61 coasters. Do you think the Hershen Family Entertainment will buy the Schlitterbahn parks? I think those are safe with the Six Flags chain because they love their resorts, and I believe the Schlitterbahn parks, a few of them are resorts. Barcelona, Buffalo Bills is closing, so I think we know what will happen to Desperado Rep. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't see that ride reopening again. It's unfortunate. Really want to try at some point because I saw it on the coaster specials growing up, but I guess the saving grace I've heard it's not the world's best ride, but I still want to try it. Jaden Herbert, have you seen any concerts? Yeah, I've been to a few. See, I've been to like Maroon 5, Kelly Clarkson. I've been to a few others with my wife, like Ariana Grande. Who else was it? Ellie Goulding, Dan Shay. Typically, I don't go to many concerts, but I'll go if so she's not alone. Maverick's Heartline roll was one coaster in the U.S. you would not mind if burnt to the ground. So I want to say Range at Yesterland Farm, but I think that one might already closed. If not, hopefully that one burns to the ground. 61 coasters. Do you think the tariffs might be the main reason Six Flags has been working with B&M or other manufacturers that have factories in the United States? So any project that is in place now was probably agreed upon before the tariffs came into place. So I think it'll be more interesting to see what happens with future projects going forwards. Shem the Grace Hopper. You can only choose one: Yankee Cannonball or Grand National. Grand National, much better airtime. Daniel again. Do you start to gray out in Mega Blitz at Wiener Prater? I need another reference. And of course, go Red Sox. Yeah, I gray out in those one. That's basically Helix the ride. Barcelona. Have you ever been the Big Apple coaster? I'll probably go the next time I go to Vegas. I rode it with the old trains and I actually liked it. I found it janky, but I found it comically janky. I just jammed the shoulder pads down as far as possible so I didn't get headbanging, and I enjoyed the ride. Um, H Perm, do you think Canobie will get a new coaster soon? If so, what? So this might be cheating, but an SPF Visa spinner's been spotted on site, so that's probably what their next coaster is going to be. Jaden Herbert, do your cats like the heat? Oh, they love it. The sunroom, like there have been days we open, it's like 90 degrees in there. They come sprinting through the house to go in there, and they just lie on the ground and pass out. When I say pass out, I mean like sleep. They're perfectly comfortable. Vincent, have you ridden Dance Macabre at Efteling yet? I have not. I want to get on that one though. Maverick's Heartline roll. If you had unlimited money and creative freedom, what would be your dream coaster? Um, Maybe some type of like mock coaster that does a little bit of everything, has inversions. So think of Helix, but also add the dueling element of Stardust Racers. Dicronius. Hostile just opened, but it doesn't look anything like the initial plan. Yeah, the initial plan was supposed to have a big Vekoma thrill coaster, if I remember correctly, but I think it's all family coasters now. Hopefully, the thrill coaster happens in the future, but we'll see what happens. John Pelosi, are you going to Six Flags America this year? I would like to. Yeah, I will definitely want to get back there before they close again. I'd like to pair that on a trip to Busch Gardens and King's Dominion. Cat Ashworth, what was the last film you watched? What I watched the other day. I think what I saw on the plane. Thor: Love and Thunder. I want to give that movie a second chance because I remember seeing it in theater, thought it was fine. Definitely one of the weaker Marvel films, but it has its moments. Vertical Loop. What launch would you say is the most similar to Accelerator? Probably Stealth at Thorpe Park. JG Orbic. Sorry if I mispronounced that. In your opinion, was the strongest airtime moment on any coaster? Trying to think of the single strongest airtime moment. El Toro, some crazy ones. Wild Train Fantasiana had some really, really scary good airtime moments. That's another one that comes to mind. Stephen Faola, favorite manufacturer? I'd go with RMC and Intamin. Love their rides. That's as a rider, not necessarily as someone buying them. The theme park dude. What is your favorite Italian brain rot character? I'm not familiar with any of those characters, so I don't know the answer to that. Sorry. Maverick's Heartline roll. Do you think Chinese built coasters from Jinma will ever really be solid contenders in the US market? With as long as the tariffs are in place, I do not, because the benefit with the Chinese built coasters is they're economical options, but if there's a huge tariff, that's probably gonna thwart the advantage there. Barcelona, what do you think is worse, Coaster Express on a wheel seat or Blue Tornado? I would say Blue Tornado just because of how, at least with Coaster Express, you don't hit your head, whereas Blue Tornado will just constantly bash your head, and it's a hard restraint too. 61 coasters. I'm glad the Titans redeem is not safe to the Dallas Cowboys because both are mid, but they should deem Sidewinder to the Texas Rangers and Titan to the Mavericks. Um. Oh, Titans retheme. Sorry. Yeah, I find it cool when parks theme their coasters with the nearby sports teams. Dicronius, do you believe the Smiler will lose its inversion record soon? Honestly, I'm surprised it's lasted as long as it has because I feel like that might be one of the cheaper, like substantial records to beat. Trap Ostrich, do you think Mach could ever make an inverted extreme spinner like Ride to Happiness but under the track? I don't think they'll do that just because I've heard those trains are really expensive and putting it below the track might add additional costs as well. Matthew Stokes, top three coasters in New England: Boulder Dash, Superman, and Wicked Cyclone. Diddle Lipper, saddest loss to Six Flags America closing. I'm gonna go with Wild One just because I know they've rebuilt that ride many times, so it's not the original like track anymore. But that's still a historic layout, and it started off near where I grew up, so I really am gonna be devastated to see that ride close, especially because it's still a good ride. Jaden Herbert, mountain coasters are my favorite type of coaster. I like them, but I prefer the larger, more traditional coasters. But I definitely like a lot of the mountain coasters. The ones in Europe are really good. Vertical Loop, most forceless thrill coaster you've ever ridden. Um, Wild One at Valley Fair is relatively tame considering its size, so I'll say that one. Gem the Grace Hopper. Did you ever see the scrapped plans for the Cross Valley Wood Coaster at Alton Towers? Yeah, that thing looked really cool. And it's a shame it never happened. Vincent, what is your current favorite dark ride in the world? Rise of the Resistance. I love Star Wars and the fact that you have a trackless dark ride with so much theming and some surprise elements. Why I love it so much. 61 Coasters. Favorite college football team? Um, I don't really have a favorite college football team because college sports aren't college football is not really big in the Northeast. Obviously, there's BC, but I don't really watch them too often. I more just watch to see good players. Hello, Poke Chef. Jaden Herbert, favorite PCC wood coaster. Phoenix at Knobles. The buzz bars and lack of seatbelts make that ride. Uh, Daniel, again, if it was your choice, what will be the next edition of Phantasialand with their family focus and space constraints? I would love to see a modern, like trackless dark ride because we know that park can do theming well. I'd be really intrigued if they could put one where the old Hollywood tour was because that had to have been a substantial building over there. Dicronius, do you have any plans to visit the Chinese park soon? I definitely want to get to the two main Disney parks, well, Hong Kong and then mainland China. I don't know when it'll be, but I'd like to get to those parks. John Pelosi, favorite flat ride. I love drop towers, top scans. Those are two of my favorites. Chaos pendles are awesome too. Vertical loop. What rides would you compare to Six Flags Magic Mountain's new coaster? Um, hmm. I'd say it would be like a motorbike coaster and a suspended coaster combined into one. H perm. Thoughts on one of your most popular YouTube shorts? No Breaks and Emperor. My guess is that dive coasters are very um like you'll see dive coaster shorts tend to go viral pretty often because those drops are, they're magnets when you see it on social media if you aren't a big coaster enthusiast. And then the coaster enthusiast probably want to see what a dive coaster looks like when the holding brake doesn't work. Barcelona, I just went on Giant Dipper yesterday for my third time in the exact same sea as I did my first. As good as I remembered. I'm assuming you mean the Santa Cruz one because it's the much better Giant Dipper. But yeah, I love that ride. Jaden Herbert, do you like Comet at Hershey Park? Um, I don't like as much as I used to. Because the big reason I liked it is you had one or two really good drops of the buzz bars, but now you have those ratcheting lap bars, so you don't get nearly as much airtime as you used to. It's still a fun classic. It's smooth, but yeah, I'd say the overall ride at this point is kind of a below average wood coaster, especially because it always has a long line. Dicronius, do you have the chance to ride Villain at Geauga Lake? I did not. I didn't get to Geauga Lake before they closed. Vincent, which European park do you think is most dire need of a standout coaster? I would say Gardaland because they have like a pretty deep lineup and they have a lot of stuff there, but they don't have that true like world class coaster. If they got that, that's a really stacked park top to bottom. Another one that might come to mind would be Efteling because they have good coasters, but I'd love to see like a world class standout coaster, and that park would be complete. And honestly, if they got like a major elite coaster, that's a borderline like top five, top 10 park in the world. Vertical Loop, best themed Six Flags ride and worst themed Disney Universal ride. Um, worst themed Disney Universal ride. They have a few flats that don't have too much theming, so it'd probably be one of those. For the best themed Six Flags ride, it is probably Justice League. That's a really good dark ride. Misty LSM's fifth favorite mock coaster. Um, I think it would be Enzo at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Yeah, because I have. Yeah, I think it would be Enzo because I definitely prefer Ride to Happiness, Helix, DC Rivals, and Hyperia. 61 coasters. Do you think Judge Roy Payne will get replaced by an RMC coaster or a Gravity Group family coaster? I see that ride sticking around because I don't know if they'd be able to build in that spot again because it's kind of a weird plot running alongside the road. If anything, I think they'll just maintain it. Vincent, current top three parks in the world: Disneyland, Tokyo Disneyland, and then it would probably be Silver Dollar City or possibly Tokyo Disney Sea. Tokyo Disney Sea really grew on my return trip. Other parks in contention would be Phantasialand and Europa Park. Bob, what was the coaster that got you over your fear? Probably Steel Force at Dorney Park because after I rode that coaster, I rode a giant coaster, so at that point, nothing really phased me anymore. But I always liked coasters. Jaden Herbert, favorite park at Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom. Stephen Fiola, Superman a top five coaster worldwide, in your opinion? Not worldwide, but it's still in my top 25, which is impressive considering, it's an older layout. Well, I say older, but it's like a 25-year-old steel coaster, and most of the steel coasters on my top list are newer ones. Diddle Lipper, would you ever do a top drop tower manufacturer video? Pardon me if you already have. So I've done a top drop tower video, but I don't know if I'd necessarily make one for the top manufacturers because certain manufacturers like Intamin make wide different models of drop towers that all feel different. And also the height plays a big role, so I'll say that. John Pelosi. I prefer Skyrush with the original restraints. It felt much more unhinged, and I didn't find them uncomfortable. Jane Herbert, favorite log flume, Splash Mountain. Bob, do you prefer El Toro or Skyrush? Skyrush. Dicronius. Phantasialand should axe Crazy Bats and replace it with another thrill coaster. So, while I'm not a big fan of Crazy Bats, it is a family coaster, and I think it still gets some crowds. But that corner of the park really needs a substantial ride to draw people over there. That's why I want to see them add a big, like, major dark ride to get people over there. Vertical Loop. Would you rather have a super intense coaster with little to no theming, or a tamer coaster with immaculate theming? Um, there's no exact answer to that. I'd say typically for coasters, I prefer the higher thrill coasters, and a lot of my top coasters don't have much theming to them. So I'll say that. Vincent, what standout coaster would you like to see at Efteling? Um, I don't. I imagine they have some sort of height limit they have to work with because of the neighbors. I know Python was an issue when they built that one originally. I would love to see like a mega or hyper coaster at that park. If not, some type of multi-launch coaster would be cool as well. J Toki 12. With Jeffrey Siebert now the regional manager for Texas, do we think Over Texas will be improved to the level of Fiesta Texas? I imagine any park he touches is going to get better because he does an amazing job with Fiesta. So um, I'd say that. H Perm, favorite media day you've been to? Um, I've been to a media day. Oh yeah, I've been to the one for Wildcat. I haven't been to many media days to be honest, so uh, I might have to say the Lake Compound's Wildcat one by default because I rode Wildcat like 20 times in an hour and a half because no one else was riding it. Um, yeah, but I haven't been to too many media days to be honest. Dicronius, first big coaster you've ridden. It would probably be one of the, unless you count like a Galaxy coaster, it would probably be the Disney coasters like Big Thunder Mountain. Vertical Loop, best singular city for coasters. I'd probably have to go with Orlando because you have SeaWorld and Universal there. Disney's technically not Orlando, but it's close enough that people loop it in with that. Shem the Grace Hopper, do you think the novelty of super steep beyond vertical drops has run its course? Emphasis seems more to be on twisted designs more recently. I think beyond vertical drops are still going to be highly popular. They're super marketable and they deliver good forces too. Jaden Herbert, have you been to Ferrari World Abu Dhabi? I have, and I have several videos about that park. It's a fun park. 61 coasters. I think Six Flags Over Texas needs another thrilling flat ride, maybe an S&S Scream and Swing. Yeah, that'd be a nice addition for them because they definitely are a good coaster lineup right now. Brand Basil, top three current wood coasters. So again, I don't count Lightning Rod as a wood coaster anymore, so it'll be Voyage, Outlaw Run, Shivering Timbers. Some random jammer. When are you planning to go to Cedar Point for Siren's Curse? I don't know when I'll go to Cedar Point. I'd like to get there at some weekend this year, though. Jaden Herbert, have you gotten any behind the scenes tours of rides? I've gotten a few. I've walked Haunted Mansion at Knobles. There was one year I got a winning bid on the Gobbler Getaway Tour at Holiday World. Um, yeah, the backstage tours I've seen have been some dark rides, and they're really cool to see. 61 coasters. Have you tried Shockwave at Over Texas in the back row? That's the only place I ride that coaster at this point. Those drops are violent back there, and I love it. John Pelosi, favorite B&M wing coaster. I like Flug der Damon at Haida Park. The inversions hit really hard in that ride. Barcelona, will you ride entirely smooth Wildcat this year? Yep, that's the plan. I'll definitely be going to Lake Compound some more this year. Um, yeah, I'm intrigued. It'll be nice to ride that smooth start to finish for once. H Perm, two park you have not been to. Seems like you've been to every park ever. I have not been to Epic Universe yet. I will eventually, but some other parks I haven't been to. Haven't been to South Korea. Haven't been to Turkey. Another big U.S. park I haven't been to is Wild Adventures, but hope to get to all those parks eventually. Jaden Herbert, best GCI. So the ones in China look amazing, but of the ones that I have been on, um, probably Mystic Timbers. Um, Preston, driving back from Hershey Park. Hope you had a great visit. I mean, I always love Hershey Park. 61 coasters. West Texas is kind of sad in terms of amusement parks. I think they should get a major one. Uh, I don't know how the population of Texas is spread out. If there's a big enough population out there to support a big park. Uh, I don't know if Amarillo counts as a Western Texas park, but I do enjoy that park because they have some quirky rides there. Vincent, Efteling has acquired a plot of land to the east side of the park where they're allowed to build above 60 meters, but they're experiencing permit issues due to their proximity to a nature reserve. Hopefully, they get that worked out because I'd love to see them build something that tall. Maverick's Heartline Roll. Do you think Mount Olympus will ever get a major new coaster? And if so, what would it be? Um, it's hard to say with that park because it seems like most of their investment's been in the water park side lately. Um, I'd let a Eurofighter be a nice fit for them, but we'll have to see what they choose to do. Dicronius, where are some obscure manufacturers that you'd like to see more coasters from? Let's see, they're still not making coasters. That's a toughie. Like when they're still building coasters, Hopkins made some quirky rides. I wish they built more. H Perm, do you have all the credits in Canada, or have you only been to Wonderland and La Ronde? I've been to more parks than that in Canada. I've been to Marineland, Granby Zoo, the Vancouver parks. I don't have all the credits in Canada, but I think I have the big ones though. J Toki 12, not a question, but I hope Mattel in Arizona does well. I'm guessing Phoenix won't ever get a true standout park. Yeah, I hope Mattel Adventure Park does well and they, can expand upon that because I welcome more indoor parks. Hyper Thrills, do you have any expectations for the King to Ka replacement? I expect a mock tower coaster, that 400-foot one, based off of the surveys and how the stuff that seems to be coming seems to be based off the surveys. So I need to wrap up and go shortly. So I'm going to answer the last question I see on the screen right now, which is the Express Thrills one. But after that, I'm probably going to have to go. But if there's anything I didn't answer, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll do my best to get to it. Jaden Herbert, what is a coaster you'd get on over and over again? Any of my favorite coasters, like I've ridden Lightning Rod literally for 4 hours in a row. 61 coasters. Do you think Six Flags will build another amusement park in Houston? I don't know if Six Flags is going to build any new parks from the ground up at this point, given how they just, you know, given how they just made the big merger. And if anything, it seems like they're going to shed some parks right now. I hope someone builds a big park in Houston. Yeah, I don't think it'll be Six Flags though. Vincent, favorite dueling coaster. So I have not been on Stardust Racers yet. That looks amazing, and I'll probably take the top spot for dueling. Unless I'm forgetting one, it'd probably be Yours in the Drock or Dueling Dragons. Jimmy Landy, are you disappointed you never made a review of Evermore theme park in Utah? I'm not. I knew a little bit about that park, but I'm not too big into like the like live action role playing stuff, which I think that's what it was about. Definitely looks like a cool place though. Maverick's Heartline roll. I have a bad feeling the Great Adventure Coaster is going to get delayed a year. Unfortunately, I tend to agree that's going to happen if it truly is being delayed by tariffs. And this is the last question. Express Thrills. Will you ever go to Everland in South Korea for T Express? I definitely want to get there. I don't have a like trip booked to South Korea or anything like that right now. And again, that was the last question I was gonna get to. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. I'll try to do another when I hit the next milestone. And again, if there's anything you didn't get a chance to ask or I didn't get to, feel free to put it in the chat. I'll do my best to get to it. So thanks again. Have a good night. See ya.